Namaste. I'm Monique Sayers, and today I'm here with Danielle Hayes. We are both the co-creators of an upcoming book, which is called A New Paradigm of Education Rising. It's part of a global international series from A New Paradigm of Education that was an Amazon bestseller launched last year. What I really love about this book is that we get to co-create and collaborate with brilliant visionaries of the world, just like Danielle, from all across the world. We've got, parents, educators, mentors, intuitives. We've even got teenagers in our upcoming book, and we're all sharing our different viewpoints on what we believe would support children, the change makers of the world, and our vision of a new paradigm, our own take on that. And it kind of co-creates and forms this beautiful book that will be of service to everybody that's reading it. So I'd love, first of all, for everybody who's tuning in, just to know who you are, Danielle, if you could introduce yourself. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Monique. It is, an exciting time. I am an educator, and I transitioned into becoming a child and adolescent therapist. About 5 years ago, I started doing school counselling, and kind of made the transition from 30 years of education into this kind of new world, which for me feels quite values aligned, because I'm working individually with children who are struggling with depression and anxiety and some of those other challenges that our kids are facing. So it feels incredibly rewarding to be able to have that one-to-one time with children and to really work from a nervous system approach into supporting them, into understanding who they are, why things show up for them the way they do, and to help with their healing process. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's amazing. I really love the energy that you bring into the book and your wealth of educational background and just what you're doing for the children. Like, it's really, really necessary. We need people to be supporting children in their mental health and in their regulation. And I know your chapter is a lot about this type of support. So would you like to share just a little bit about what the readers might be receiving when they look at your chapter?
Yeah, sure. My chapter was kind of really inspired by some of the stories of the kids that I work with and their healing journeys. And so I wanted to write a little bit about that, obviously anonymously and confidentially, but it was important for me to share some of what I've observed and children that I've worked with, and some of the things that are coming up for them. And these things are quite universal. So a lot of our children at the moment are experiencing anxiety. Our world is a very busy, rushed kind of place for them, and it's that anxiety is really building, quite globally. And so, my chapter is really about providing how we can provide safety and connection as two of the most important things to help a child regulate their nervous system. And through that, learning then happens, and how important it is for us to have that safety and connection first, and then allow a child's natural learning abilities to come through. Whereas when they're stressed and dysregulated, the learning isn't happening, and then we're putting pressure on them because that learning isn't coming as naturally. So for me, it all comes back to providing a sense of safety and connection. And that's what, my space is for here. And then teaching children and helping them to learn how to provide that within themselves and for themselves.
Yeah, it's really amazing what Danielle shares, and she's got some tools in there. And I really love that you've got real life stories that are confidential as well, because they're really relatable for both parents and educators as well. People will get a lot out of what you've written, and also the offerings that you have in there for supporting them as well, that they can use. So you're sitting here in the background of your Calm Kids workspace. It's really amazing. Would you like to share maybe just something that maybe parents or educators could know about what you're doing in this space, or that could support them?
Yeah, sure. I love another thing that I do is work with educators. I go into schools and do workshops around nervous system approaches. So rather shifting that behavior lens that we see children through to a nervous system lens. And we always start with the teachers themselves. When I do parent coaching here, we also do the same thing. We start with the parents' nervous systems, because if we're dysregulated as adults, it's almost impossible for our children to be regulated. So we hear a lot of chatter at the moment about, children need to self-regulate. But what we don't always understand as adults is that we are their co-regulators when they're young. And so it's so important for us as educators or parents and adults in society to sort of understand our own nervous systems and how we can bring ourselves back from those elevated states back into a state of homeostasis or balance, so that we can manage the things that come up in day-to-day life. So yeah, part of what we do here is certainly working with children and helping them to understand their nervous systems. And I find that children are fascinated by the science behind it all. But we also work with parents and educators because that's where it starts from. Once we as the adults get this, then we can really support the kids. And yeah, the schools that we've worked in have been really grateful, I know. And I've had feedback that, you know, there's been some real shifts in the classroom in the way that they observe and manage behaviours and shifting that lens. So that for me is really exciting.
That's amazing. It's amazing that you're able to support everybody. And I really believe that regulation is definitely the key, not just of this paradigm, but of any paradigm in education. And that's the place of, yeah, like what you're saying, of learning, of feeling safe and comfortable, for then being able to expand out into the other types of education that they are. And it brings us back into that holistic model of education, which is what our book is all about. You know, it's about the body, the soul, the mind, and also the ascension of children, not just one aspect. So I'm really grateful to co-create with you on this. I'd also like to ask you one final question. So we talk about our book is called A New Paradigm of Education. So I know that this probably is always formulating and changing for you as an educator who's, you know, excited and inspired by a new paradigm. But what would you say at the moment would you be your belief around what is a new paradigm of education?
Oh, look, I think for me at the moment, a new paradigm of education is just understanding the whole child. We are not a series of parts. Everything is interconnected. And so viewing a child as a whole person, and as you say, that education goes well beyond a classroom or one specific type of education, and that whole child within that sort of broader aspect of education is so important. But we really need to start with that holistic approach and see a child as they are and allow them to sort of, so I guess for me, you know, it's when we provide that sense of safety and connection, amazing things can happen.
Yeah, unbelievable. I totally agree with you. And I really love and I'm really inspired by all of your visions, and everybody who's listening, all of your visions as well. Like a new paradigm of education is not one vision. It's like a global vision that everybody's doing their part and their piece in making a change in the evolution of education. And we all have a role to play. We all have our own gift that we can share out, our own simple step that we can take. And us all writing this book was one of those steps, and you reading the book is also one of those steps. So we're just really grateful and excited that we're able to put this information out there, and it can be received and inspired and helpful for whoever's reading it. So thank you so much for coming and talking about your chapter today, Danielle. And we're releasing this out in December. It will be available on Amazon, and it's called A New Paradigm of Education Rising. So we look forward to co-creating with you there, receiving us there. And if you're wanting to also reach out further to us, we also do have a group, A New Paradigm of Education. So if you're an educator or a parent who's wanting to have a conversation around this topic, we're there as well. So thank you so much, Danielle.
Fantastic. Thank you.